Good evening. Welcome to the Finance Commission meeting. It being 6 o'clock, we will begin our meeting. Just to let you know, we are at the Norwood Town Hall on Central Street and Manhattan Street. We have handicap access through our parking lot, and all are welcome. All right, to start off the meeting, let's take a look at our minutes. And I have one correction, Molly, I'd like to make.
Okay.
The school department also presented, besides what you have in here, also presented their cost allocation agreement and their budget timeline. Anybody else? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as updated by
Second.
Ann.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Abstain.
Unanimous. Oh, one abstention, I'm sorry. Okay. I'm going to give you a little update on the trends and analysis. I spoke to Mr. Mizuko and Mr. McQuaid, and Mr. Mizuko will supply some information to Mr. McQuaid about how to format the trends analysis, how to where to look for the information, and all that sort of thing. So within the next short time, they will begin to work on the trends and analysis. Okay. 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 How about we move down instead of continuing with this, since we have Mr. Good, our treasurer here. Why don't we begin with his credit rating comparison report from Hilltop and some information that you can supply us. So I want to come on up, Mark.
You got the agenda on here,
Yes.
but I have your copy of the agenda.
Oh,
I just gave you a
no, it wasn't on the.
just mark it.
Okay. Bob, why don't you start? You were the one that, oh,
Okay, sure. Thanks, Mark, for doing the analysis. The point that I wanted to just emphasize with the analysis that Mr. Good performed for us was just the benefit, as we're all aware of, if we were to, in time, obtain a AAA rating. And given that we have a major building project coming about in several years, in most likelihood, I think I'd like to have a discussion with town management in terms of what are the activities and tasks and things that we can do to improve our ratings. So on the Hilltop analysis, we can get into that at a later point, but one of the things that I thought Mark's analysis could educate us on is the benefit, if you will, of attaining a AAA rating for credit as opposed to our very good AA plus rating with Standard & Poor's today. So I asked Mr. Good if he could just model, for example, a bond, if you will, a $50 million bond, and model it in two ways. One, assuming an interest rate of 4%, and the other a 3.75 interest rate. So just a difference of 25 basis points between the two. Now, I don't know whether or not AAA communities get what they get for ratings, but I don't know whether or not the delta between AA and AAA is 0.25 or 25 basis points, but I just thought this would be a point for us just to be able to talk about the benefit to a municipality of getting a better credit rating and a interest rate, if you will. So that's the background. So,
and so I think the difference between a AAA rated community and a AA rated community is going to be about 15 and 25 basis
Okay.
points.
Mhm.
So I think you're right on target, and it's a good number to work with, and
Good.
yeah.
Mr. Greeley is looking for a folder, which I couldn't find when I got in here.
Sorry about that.
It's okay. Nobody saw a folder on the table, did they?
No.
Okay. Good, good. And as the analysis shows that Mark did, that basically over the course of the debt service of a 3.75 versus a 4% debt service, the advantage of the better rate, the 3.75, over the course of the course of the loan is $1.6 million. So that,
Significant.
yeah, that's the kind of point that I think the FinCom would like to keep in mind as we try to do the best that we can to target a AAA rating. As we get into the Hilltop analysis, one of the things I noted was that I had always had this assumption that our AAA-rated communities. Mark, I'm sorry. Is there anything else you want to add before I jump
Nope,
from?
I think you did a good job there.
Thank you for the numbers.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it kind of helps illustrate the advantages.
Yeah.
I also, when you get into the numbers here, I think it's interesting, based on today, a snapshot today, that we see the residential tax implication
Yeah,
of
that's kind
that.
of an added tidbit, but
But again, that's a snapshot today.
of today's
What is
values.
it, 4 to 5 years down the line, Alan?
So the
The
Data
probably
solution.
the
Right.
bond. But
Right.
even right now, I mean, the average house is, the first few years, it's gonna be $250 a year more on what they're already paying. The average right around $800 already with the override, so.
And you went out for 25 years.
25 years.
25
the a-
years.
And that's
the average house being 481,000.
Yes.
So if
On-
your
on-
house was valued at 481,000, you would pay an additional $254 to.
And commercial
in
would
debt
pay
service.
almost $594.35. I think this is, good just to see the early figures
Right.
on this, and it's on the table, and the people can see it and or
Right.
hear it right now.
Right, but a lot of it is really gonna depend on, market factors and what the actual project is and how much reimbursement we
value
get
of
from
the
MSBA.
houses at the time, yep.
Yeah, and, I think it's gonna be a matter of, doing the work and getting a project out there and asking people whether they want it or not. That you give them the facts and see whether they vote for it. That's really the way to go. Now, Mark, knowing what you know, and the fact that it's probably, 4 or 5 years from now that we're gonna be potentially going out for a major bond for the middle school, given what we have to do, I mean, is it realistic to expect that we can get a AAA? Not gonna hold you to this.
Oh, we can try.
Yeah,
I mean, that's all you can do.
Yeah.
Moody's, S&P, they're looking for trends.
yeah.
They want to see consistent trends over time.
Mm-hmm.
So if you start now, and we can show this upward trend of, say, fund balance, which, if you ask me, that's the big thing
Right.
for these agencies is fund balance, fund balance, fund balance. You go to a
Meaning like
conference.
stabilization funds and our savings.
Yeah,
Right.
and essentially they show that comparison here. Our fund balance, total fund balance, that includes stabilization and the
Cash.
unassigned and where is that? It's
The OPEB retirements and
stabilization,
stuff.
the unassigned fund balance and free cash.
Yeah.
So, we're at 12.8, but you look at, what I would consider a true AAA community, say Belmont, the next one down, it's 25.6 million.
Yeah.
Nearly, well, more than double.
Is Dedham at AAA right now?
Yes.
Yeah.
They are triple A. I don't know if they're triple A by both S&P and Moody's.
Okay,
Those
you're right.
I would consider true AAA communities.
As both.
Yeah.
If they're both rated. I mean, you look at Marlboro, that is a Moody's rating of AA2 and a AAA rating by S&P.
That's-
So
Well, the financial advisor did say they look at different things and
they
they
do,
weight things
and
differently.
I think
and
S&P might be a little bit more,
Liberal? Not liberal or generous?
a little bit tighter on
Oh,
their
tighter,
rating.
yeah, okay.
Right, and, one of the things that we've been working on, and, as a FinCom, we've been hopping on for years, is the stabilization fund and try to build that up. And particularly, with the new financial policies, one of the things that we want to try to accomplish with those is to try to increase our free cash balance too. So, I think it's important that we have those financial policies there, at least they identify what we have to do, and if we could, like you say, be consistent for the next 2, 3, 4 years, showing an increase in those balances, we'll take our chances and see what they say.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the direction I wanted to go, was if, is it feasible for us to consider a strategy to attain a AAA, and what are the metrics that we would need to improve upon according to the Hilltop analysis that we could measure over time that we're moving in that direction? So if you recall, when they came in, Hilltop came in, they gave us this nice little overview, and it was really intriguing at the end of that, where they gave us that that scenario builder,
Right.
Yeah.
and where we scored, on a 1 to 5 basis, with 1 being positive and 5 being negative. We, the category that we did definitely have a weakness at level 3, right in the middle of that scale, was budgetary performance, which I think takes in the consideration general fund levels and reserves and that sort of thing. And my only point is that as we go forward with our budgeting processes coming up, is just to pay attention a little bit to that. And are there elements that we can talk to during our budget preparation period that we can improve upon?
Right,
Stabilization fund for the override is going to help us. 1.5 that didn't exist before is now in our reserves, so.
Yeah.
things
And
like
one of the things that I think is gonna help us, a couple of things is, number one, we do have a pledge that will try to limit, growth in budgets to a particular percentage, but also, and it's early, but the early returns on the cherry sheet are very positive.
We've
To
got
Norwood,
that in our
yeah,
packet.
a significant increase, not only a significant increase, but also, at least again, on a preliminary basis, the charges haven't gone up either. So the increase is gonna be, almost entirely, coming to Norwood. And, if we're limited in what we can spend on the budget, because of the pledge, which I think we all agree is the way to go, that, there's some money out there, and that's the kind of money I think we could potentially put towards stabilization, as an example, or,
Yeah.
instead of borrowing, maybe a few minor things we can pay for cash, but I think we have to keep that in mind, that, if we do want to go for AAA, and if there is some, I hesitate to use the word surplus, because it's not, but if there are, some additional funds that we weren't counting on, then we should put those more towards our savings account rather than throw them away somewhere.
And again, that's been the message we've been
Yeah.
trying to get out to the decision makers, and the final ones, of course, is town meeting.
Yeah,
So the beat continues. I think, although right now, we probably have more data than we've ever had
Yeah.
because of what's available on the Division of Local Services, the state, and what we've been doing here.
yeah.
So,
So is there, do we want to put together a statement on how we feel that people should look at the budget for this year, and where we would like to
Well, if you remember, the
place
budget
any-
this upcoming year is part of the 5-year
Right, it
plan.
is.
It's already in cement with the memorandum of understanding.
Okay, but within the memorandum of understanding, refresh my memory, did we say we were putting money into a stabilization fund?
We said, we
Wait,
did a
what,
couple
I-
of things. We did make some
Did you have
commitments
it?
in the pledge
See
that
if
we
I've
were
got
going
one.
to do things such as minimally, we're gonna be putting $250,000 a year during that period to OPED. So we did have some strong statements. I
Yeah,
don't know if we had anything there in terms of the advances in stabilization funds.
OPEB will not be decreased. We said it won't be
Decreased.
decreased.
But talking
Yeah.
about budget and expenditures and the spending
Yeah.
plan, it is capped.
Right.
Right,
And that's gonna help us because Hilltop also, in that metric that I just had out here in that scenario builder, that we scored low and scored in the middle of the range, budgetary performance. What Mr. Frazier pointed out to us, that accounts for 10% of one's total score or weight under the S&P analysis. And what they're looking at in addition is a history of surpluses and deficits and structural balances, recurring revenues versus reoccurring expenditures. I think we really can say that we have tackled that issue quite effectively over the last year.
I think so,
With
too.
changes in free
I
cash and,
think so.
and reducing our dependence upon one-time revenue sources. I think hopefully we'll be trending in that direction where our budgetary performance will be such that that 3 becomes a stronger 2 or a 1.
yeah. Well, I think that we've got time, we've got some time, and it's good that we've started it. And hopefully we will be able to continue
Yeah.
with growth.
Right, and I think the message that maybe Molly can take back to Tom and to Tony is that, the FinCom, and please correct me if I'm,
Go right ahead.
going over my authority, is the FinCom feels that, funds, significant funds should be devoted towards stabilization accounts, be it the regular stabilization account and potentially the override
It's
stabilization
one of the
account.
keys to triple A.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
as long as we're not shorting ourselves someplace else.
exactly, yeah. Yeah, we're,
But the other thing that dovetails into this is we now have an updated financial policies, which we'll be talking about, I guess, on the agenda a little
Yeah.
later, which also brings in a fence of what we have. We've been doing a lot of it, but now it's,
Yeah.
codified and so forth. So
Yep.
there are a number of pieces that are in place to drive us down that road to triple A.
Right, right.
I also just point out in that chart that Mark just displayed that on the far right-hand side was the unfunded OPED liability as a percent of revenues, and we ranked 13th out of those other AAA communities. And I'm sorry, pardon my writing, but it's that one, the finances one. And we stood at 140.71% at the time that Peter did this analysis. And given the change in OPED liability just recently that we've had with the latest actuary report, that number is going to drive effectively down right into a good mix with that AAA community. And that's, so hopefully we maintain that in a manner that when S&P is looking at us for a credit rating, we're looking at them for a credit rating for a large bond. We won't be at 104.7%. We'll be in the ballpark with these other groups. I think actually with our new OPED, we're probably going to be in the 70 percentiles. Just back of the envelope guess.
And like I said to Tom, that number's only as good as the future decision makers
Yeah.
stand by. And
Right.
once we fund retirement, then start getting on that OPEB.
Yeah.
Right. And it's good that we have a commitment in our pledge to make sure that minimally we're not going to reduce our annual contribution to OPED, so that it's good news. I think this all kind of plays into our overall discussions about how do we measure these things over time, and I
Yeah.
think that the financial trends kind of dovetail into, they will help us with monitoring these numbers as well, so.
So we just have to hold up our MOU and hold up our new policies and go forward.
Yeah.
Well, we'll present those to the to S&P,
Okay.
and I think that will go a long way.
Mark, do you see
Well-
another rating coming out before we do borrow for the middle school?
I think at this point, we will be going out for a bond issue sometime around June. I think we can borrow, do a bond for the access road construction, 12.5 million, for the light
Access road
headquarters.
Construction, but that's the light department.
Yeah, that's the light department.
Right.
But we'll get a rating at that time.
We'll have to do a rating at that.
Yes.
And that could be as early as this coming June?
Yeah, probably May for that June issue.
I don't know if the pieces that are in place now would be changed.
Well, I
given
think
that we
there's a
have-
lot of positive things to talk about, and,
Yeah.
when we talk to Moody's, we're selling the town. And the fact that this commission is talking about this,
Yeah,
I think that goes a long way. I've never actually seen a finance committee take an interest the way you have, so that's positive.
We'll send them a copy of this meeting so that they'll know that we're serious.
Yeah, we
You know.
could, we'll send the policies, and I think that will go a long way. We have those policies, we have the 5-year budget forecast. We didn't have those
pledge, you
before.
know,
Yeah, yeah, I think we sent that pledge already to them.
Okay.
well, I'm
We
glad you
can
made some
reinforce it.
comments relative to the engagement of this particular finance commission. I have a theory of why this commission is probably more engaged and deeper. We're elected here, we're not appointed. We're not appointed by the selectmen, we're not appointed by the town administrator. We're not accountable for those people to appoint us. We actually report to the voters. And I think that's a difference. And I think if you go around the town, the state, there's like only a handful that are elected. And I think that drives the interest. I know here it does, at least for me it does. Did you like that theory?
Independence.
Did you like that theory?
Yes.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
I had just written down one more note. So we talked about stabilization fund, and we do have a metric in our plans about how it's funded at what % of revenues according to our financial policy, so we're monitoring that. But you mentioned the light department, and this is perhaps for, as we go through our budget review, we talk a lot about our stabilization fund, general stabilization fund, but the light department also has a stabilization fund, and I think we should, when the light department comes in here, we should have a conversation around how is that funded and at what level is it
Do
funded.
they have more than one fund?
Well, they
I know
have
at
the-
one time they had a
They-
fund for FERC,
they've
we had
got-
paying back a court order.
Yeah, they've got the rate stabilization fund,
Yeah.
which they,
Yeah.
but do they have anything further than that?
I think they do something, is that FERC?
Well, they had it a few years ago,
Is it paid off?
they had some stabilization funds a few years ago when they were still in litigation. Where was it, with NSTAR, I believe? Which partially paid off the settlement, but they still had to go out the bond for
Yeah,
those. But I
yeah.
know they do have a rate stabilization fund that they still
They do.
maintain.
And I think there's been some chatter about trying to increase their fund balance as well.
Yeah, their
Yeah.
balance was low, getting low work.
Well, I think,
I'm not sure it's the rate
There-
stabilization fund or if it was a different fund. There is one fund that they had there that,
I think their fund balance is pretty solid, but they need to, I think they want to just increase their rainy day fund.
Yes.
and-
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they got a lot of assets there to back up.
Right, you know, when the rating agencies look at the light department as an example, do they look at their, the balance of his, my mind, the depreciation account? Does that have any
that's
factor
the
at
one I
all?
was thinking of.
Well, yeah, they're looking at everything,
Yeah,
so,
Because there's money carried forth every year.
right,
For unexpended depreciation, I mean, that's the plan.
right. They carry it forward and they use that to buy, to buy a piece of, some kind of future construction.
and I think they would like to see that.
That increase too? Okay.
That's the one I was thinking of,
Yeah.
rather than their stabilization fund.
Yeah.
It was a good
You know,
fishing
years
fund.
ago, one thing that was required from the light department is to come in with a detailed list of what their plans are for the use of the depreciation fund for the upcoming years. And there was always some chatter about that, because you could see exactly what it was being funded for, replacing poles and replacing a lot of that. That doesn't happen
Yeah.
anymore.
We can make it happen.
I'm sure we could.
If anybody's interested, we can make it happen. Okay.
I think the only other thing I'm gonna add, and this is just, again, just for
Okay.
future meetings, I mean, when Peter came in that first meeting, on credit ratings, he gave us the metric data that helps feed that scenario builder, so he actually gave us for that one area, where we are, we're adequate and not at a strong or very strong level, the general fund net revenue results. The formula is in here, and it gives us an opportunity to review that periodically as we so wish, to see if our, right now, it's a negative 1.97. This, I won't go into the formula. Well, it's revenue minus expenditures, plus transfers in, minus transfers out, divided by expenditures. And that was the only metric where we scored less than the 1%. That gave us an adequate rating. And so, again, that's general fund, the establishment and how we're funding our reserves.
And I'm not sure if that included some of the, we had that tough revenue period there where,
Yeah,
uh,
2018 audited results.
2018,
I think
yeah.
you're right.
Yeah.
I think you're right. Yeah.
so, you know,
Things change.
beyond that.
Yeah, things change.
Good.
All good.
Okay. Anything else?
Yeah.
No? Well, thank you, Mark, for coming. We
Thanks for
appreciate it.
having me. Anytime.
Thank you, Mark. Much appreciated.
And thank you for
You're
these
welcome
numbers.
to stay and engage with
Yes,
us on
you,
anything.
Sure.
you can sit here and play.
I'll get out of the way here, but I'll.
Thank you.
Very exciting meetings here. Okay, next on the agenda is the review of the budget report. Did, and this is, this now seems almost old, since it was created in December, I believe. And so, first of all, we received two different reports, both the summary and the detailed budget report. Do you, for the sake of saving paper, do we want both? Do you feel that you need both, or were you okay with the summary?
Well, you know, summaries are always great. But maybe we should think about asking for some analysis of the detail. Maybe just 3 or 4 different things. Give us a list of the departments that, you know, are deficient, rather than try to go through this and find them all.
I did go through it, and I did not, the only thing I didn't manage to bring tonight was my list of particular accounts where I saw that maybe we were, well, just one of them was popped into the being right here, was, you know, anything that was over or under, that had been expended like to 80% already, and we were in December. You know, what did that mean? Are we going to have some deficiencies in that account at the end of the year and have to move money around? So that's what I was looking for when I did this. Let's see, Public Works, operating expenses, account number 401. If you're looking at the summary report. And it might have been that they ended up encumbrancing $88,000, but, I mean, and then they ended up at a 61% of it was used. And so, like, if you're at 61% now, where are we going with this?
But if you would see one of the accounts, and I don't know if that's the account, one of them, you might see 100% expended because it was
Because it
the
was in
salt they bought to
Right.
put
Right.
in
And
the
you can-
garage down there, and you
Yeah.
could figure, but I don't
You
know
can
which
figure
account,
that
you know.
out, and I, like I said, I didn't think we were going to go into this too deeply
Well,
tonight.
that's, I mean, that's, if that's the case, that sort of leads you to want the detail.
You want the detail to
Yeah,
see
because
where
then,
it
you
actually
know,
got
because
spent.
then you'd see, 100% on snow and, on salt as an example, but, you're 20% on this one and 15% on that one, so you could see, why, you're a little bit higher on total than you would think you'd be at this time of year, but, the detail would explain that.
Okay. So you want both? That's bottom
Yeah.
line here, everybody?
I think it looks to be, Molly, it looks to be a fairly standard report that can come out on a monthly basis or whatever period, right?
We run it the first of the month.
Yeah, so maybe it's something that we want to just request as a monthly basis. Now, in the past, we used to get some general ledger reports mailed to us.
Right.
Maybe the alternative is maybe we should have, maybe this is a more relevant report to us.
I think so.
And it
Yeah.
could be emailed to us as opposed to mail, so we can save on the
I'm comfortable with
postage
that.
of.
That'll
You
work.
okay with that?
That way, we
As long as
can
they
look at
don't
it at our
print it.
leisure and we,
Yeah.
As long as I don't have to print it.
so.
I mean,
yeah.
probably not a bad idea if we still get copies of the summary,
Yeah.
hard copies, but I have no problem with getting, email, of 50, 60 pages.
Okay, you, got that, Molly?
So to continue emailing it when we run it at the beginning of the month, and then for whatever meeting we have that month, we'll just print the summary.
Correct.
That sounds good.
All right?
Great.
I
Okay.
mean, overall, the bottom line was that it's right where it's supposed to be overall. We're, end of December, we're percent used at 51.2% of the budget, so.
I was, there were just like 4, maybe 5 things that I took a look
But
at.
if you remember, that, there's one of the headings here is encumbrances.
Yeah.
That is money put aside, but it's still counted when it comes down to the percentage used. So, you really have to know a little bit about budgeting before you can even make a case and say, just slap all
Well,
that
this
up.
is, you just have to, like, we have an encumbrance on our, one of our account is like one of the first ones here. And we have an encumbrance that, to pay for the audit. And it looks like we've spent, I don't know what it was, some outrageous amount of
And
our.
that's boosted our
Finance commission.
percentage, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's, we had used up 81%. So, but we know that it was because we encumbered the audit fund.
No, the last part of the report, it's fine too. It's not as easily understood. This is on the revenue side. That's a little more difficult to read, because if I'm reading this, for example, on page 72, it has,
Nothing.
light accounts receivable, I guess, AR receivables, year-to-date expended is $30 million, and available budget's $30 million, so they've used 100%. I think the revenue side, we might need Tom to help us explain this a little bit more, because it's
72.
72 on the,
We've got 71 and 73.
I think that might be.
I think you got the older one.
oh, it could be.
Yeah, because I have nothing on my account status, roll-up code, that's all I got.
I think it's 70, is it 70 in the newer report?
The first line that I have on that reports of revenue is for motor vehicle excise tax.
Yeah, that's, I have that on 73.
Oh, okay.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
We're all on the same.
So maybe, that's maybe the reference I'm pointing to might be on page 74
Yeah.
for a light department
Yeah.
receivables.
And
So-
that's usually a number though you're gonna see go higher in the spring.
Right.
So it's very low now.
Right.
But, it'll go significantly
Right.
higher when we actually pay our excise tax in the
Right.
spring.
But this is a standard report, it's fine, but it doesn't
Right.
give you, well, what's the what was the expected revenue
Yeah.
compared to where we're at. So unlike a budget report,
Yeah.
it's less useful in that. But it does tell us how we're faring as we go through the year on the revenue side. It just is, it doesn't compare to the projected or the budget level.
The
And I'm
budget,
not
right.
suggesting we get that, it's just that it's, the report is.
I'm not sure we couldn't get that.
I'm not asking for it, it's just that the revenue is good to have, but it's just, it doesn't give you as much information as the budget side does, but I understand why.
I mean, there are certain areas where there have been some concerns in the past about the estimates of revenue at the time when we did the budget, and whether, in fact, we're actually accumulating that amount back into it, so that we know whether our budget is whole or not. Because we had the problem, I think, particularly a couple of years ago, where there was an issue with, I believe it was the water funds, and I think there was another area that I can't recall off the top of my head. So I think it's good that we
I think it was
keep,
new growth.
maybe new growth. So I think it's important that we get something on revenues, so we, excuse me, so we know where we stand.
No surprises for us.
Yeah.
Right.
And if there is a surprise, is there a plan B?
Right.
So we're not gonna wind up short somewhere else.
Okay.
Okay. Everybody all set here?
Well,
Can I move on?
attached also to that report is page 88.
Well,
And
that's
the-
what we were gonna move to.
Okay. Free cash.
All right, I was going to bring
I
up.
just wonder why we're getting it in January, late January.
I think I can explain that. I asked Mr. McQuaid today.
Okay,
Okay, so, we'll, let me see where
and
we
maybe
are.
Mark might have a comment on why too. I don't know.
Okay, so, just wanted to let folks know that, we were notified of our free cash, and it's $3,414,849, which is, considerably more than, what, 2 years, a year ago,
Yeah,
a year ago.
it's really an average that we've been getting.
Yeah, if we looked out over the past, what, 5 years or so?
Yeah, 5, 10
It's
years or
It's
so,
the
yeah.
average, but the one that we got last year was just so tight and so hard.
1.8 million or
I think it was
thereabouts?
1.8.
Yeah.
It was-
1.6.
1.6.
Okay.
Yeah, so we had that, plus we received information from the governor's office, and that's in here someplace.
Can we go back to the free cash?
Sure you can. Why was it so long in
it-
coming?
Why is it so late? Because I see at the top of the page here, the last page, submission date, things weren't even submitted completely until November 15th. And then underneath of that, it says submission completed date. Is that because between the 11/15 and 12/17, they were still asking us for changes or more information? So the submission didn't get it complete until 12/17. Now, that's at least 2 months later than we were always used to.
I think it was, we were so distracted by the
Munis?
munis
I believe,
conversion
yeah,
that it was just really hard to focus on that. I mean, we were pulling, the data was there, it was just confirming it and getting it submitted. And I think the other thing that was going on there is that we knew we weren't going to use it for the fall town meeting.
Yeah.
So if it was necessary for the fall town meeting, then I think we would have been on it, but
Right.
we kind of could get away with it because of that.
We had an early
Yeah.
fall meeting in October, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think there was a plan to use any of the
Yeah.
free
But,
cash.
but the last 4 or 5 years, it's been late.
yes, you're correct. And we had actually talked to Mr. McQuaid last year, saying that we wanted to make sure that it was put in September, whenever there was due. But I do remember distinctly that at one point in time, didn't they have a discussion with someone saying that in all possibility, because of the munis conversion, that we would be submitting some of our information late? And then, and the other thing that Ms. McQuaid said to me today was that we also didn't have the need to have it certified quickly for a fall town meeting. Therefore, maybe we were put to a little bit of the bottom of the list because we didn't have the need and other towns had a need to have it reviewed and done quickly. So that was the story. All right, so we're,
Just as a reminder for our financial policies going forward, is that I think our financial policy is now stating that 500,000 of that 3.4 million will be unspent, so we can roll it into free cash for next year. Just another mechanism for improving our free cash position going forward.
yeah, and we also had another revenue source in here someplace. Oh, the governor's thing.
Governor's budget, yeah.
That might be, Molly, did you print that out or did I?
Yes, it's page 85 and 86.
What are we
Right
looking
at
for?
the, right at the back.
Oh, the budget, the information from the state. Just the next to the last page in your packet. This. From the governor's office.
Next to
The
the.
cherry
next to-
sheet. The cherry
Okay.
sheet,
Where's the cherry sheet?
right there.
This one?
Yeah, it starts on the other side of that.
Okay.
Okay. So, do you have you don't have that to put up, Molly?
It's up there.
Just, I mean, we got good news. We're getting, the governor, under the governor's proposal, we're receiving more than we had estimated. But we still have to go through the House budget and the Senate budget and then have a conference committee. And we don't know where we're gonna land, but, quick math, we really are slightly higher, probably.
Well, it's
Okay,
$1.5 million more for
I was gonna say-
education, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and the other point is that many times with state aid, what the government give us, the government take
Take it
away.
yeah,
And because, we have certain charges for, whether, whether it's for charter schools or, MBTA, county costs, et cetera. Those charges are actually down this year from last year.
Yeah.
So even though we're getting, at least
in
the
this budget.
estimate, and, in the governor's budget, we're getting like $1,750,000 more. Our charges actually went down, not significantly, but
I see that.
they're down. So, we're gonna realize that entire gain, which generally you don't see. Again, that's good
$30,000
news.
going down?
Yeah,
We'll take it,
yeah, but it didn't go up. I mean, that's really the important point.
yeah,
I think one of the caveats we just have to remember going forward is this is preliminary,
Yeah.
as you say.
Yeah.
And I think I passed the article from the Mass Taxpayers Foundation.
Oh, yeah.
that's-
which is very,
It has a dark cloud, there's a little bit of a dark cloud on the horizon, in that the revenue estimates that they've been hoping for aren't panning out as they thought. And hopefully they'll improve, or they'll make adjustments in their main budget, but the new Education Act has eaten up a lot of the new revenue. It's
Yeah.
a good thing, but it could make things tighter on other items.
But I think it's even, because of the potential dark cloud, I think it's even more critical that any additional state aid that we get doesn't go into a recurring budget item. In case
Yes.
in the future, we do get a reduction in state aid.
yeah, we don't want to be playing catch-up. All right, everybody all right with this?
Yep.
For your
Good news.
information? Okay. I think, and the final piece with the revenue was the Registry of Deeds information, which in your packet that I gave you, Norfolk
You sent
County
us a
Registry.
mailing too, yeah.
I didn't know whether everybody got it in the mail
I go,
or not.
yeah.
So, Norwood is receiving $91,890 CPA funds from the registry for the surcharges. So that's also nice. I don't know what it was from last year.
think it was in the 80s.
Yeah. All right.
Very good.
Everybody
Right.
okay on that?
Yep.
Any comments? All right, we're up to a vote on the debt policy. And everybody, there was, we voted several months ago on our financial policies. There was, I reviewed the tape of the meetings of the three boards and found that we had made an error on the debt policy in our transcription. And so the Paul Bishop from the Selectmen and Teresa Stewart and I met together yesterday, or a couple of days ago, and we've all decided to rewrite the debt policy and to vote on it separately. And we have that wording if the board decides that they want to go through with this. The school committee voted on it last night, and I believe it will be before the selectmen next week.
And basically, Ann, this is to revert the debt limit language back to the original financial policy, which was in fact what we did agree
In
to at
2008.
the April meeting
Yes.
from last year now, yes.
Yeah.
So for the
Almost.
audience sake, you might want to read the replaced
Okay.
language.
I was going to leave that up to you if you were going to make
No,
a.
I'll let you do it.
No, that's fine, I think
Okay.
that's a good idea.
Okay, so what was in the debt policy that we voted on and passed was a sentence in, under debt policy, page 7, third paragraph, under section 3 policy. And it said, the town will have a maximum debt limit equal to 5% of a non-utility operating budget. What we had discussed, and there was a consensus on at that time, was the following wording, which is, the town will maintain annual general fund debt service levels at a target range of approximately 5% of the current non-utility revenues, except for debt excluded revenues.
And
Debt-
that's the addition.
Debt, wait a minute, there's another sentence. Debt service levels shall include annual debt service requirements and short-term financing costs and capital expenditures. So that was the language that was in the 2008 policy that we had agreed upon at that meeting. So I could take a motion.
Yeah, and so the, I'll make a
Discuss
motion
it.
to approve it.
Second.
Oh, okay.
Okay, any discussion?
So the change is, whereas the one that we saw, the output from April was that 5% of non-utility operating budget, the new one is 5% of current non-utility revenues, and then the exceptions to the debt services.
Yes.
Yeah, the only point I want to make, and I make it all the time, is that 5% is an upset limit. It's not a goal. We
Right.
don't necessarily want to
We
go
don't
up to
wanna get to-
5%, but under no circumstances do we want to go higher than 5%. And, if it's less than 5%, then great, that means more money for, the school side and the town side.
And besides,
Right.
besides this language, there are requirements, and I think Mark would speak to this, is that there are a lot of other requirements that we have to meet. And we can't exceed, I guess is the better way to put it, is that we can't exceed other debt levels by law.
Those are fairly high
Statutory.
standards of 5%.
Yeah, we don't wanna go there.
Equalized
Equalized
value,
valuation,
yeah,
which is
that's a big number.
big number.
Yeah, yeah,
That'd
we
be
don't wanna go
5%,
there.
like 5 billion, wouldn't it? Equalized
Right,
value,
yeah,
yeah.
5 billion,
You don't want to spend that.
So, Judy, anything? Any comments?
No, the only comment I have is Ann is the one that caught it. Ann was sort of the person chasing this down. And it was a good catch, Ann. And
Thank
I
you.
think Bob said that in his email, was a good catch. And now we're getting it changed. This should finish the package. I think you're going to get together with the other chairs
And we'll sign it
and sign it.
after the selectmen.
And I think with the trends, I think one of the things we'll be looking at, maybe, I don't have my trend information, but when we do our budget preparation for 2021, we should have some kind of update in our, what is our percentage of non-utility revenue today? And I think we're pretty confident we're well under 5%, I think.
And that would come
Mark.
from Mark, right?
Yeah, we'll do that, that analysis for capital
Yes, the outlay.
outlay.
Yeah.
In February, actually, so we can get a copy to you.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be at the meeting anyway, so.
All right, do we want to make a vote here? Take a vote?
Go ahead.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
You're
No,
opposed?
no, I'm all favor.
Okay. Unanimous, Wally, thank you. All right, let's see, where are we? Oh, yes, my favorite thing. Review the budget calendar. Okay, you know what, before we do that, I just wanted, there is another very little itty bitty piece of paper in your,
Yes, I was wondering what that is.
along with the trend analysis, I have requested that we do, we get some information on all of the grants. I've already spoken to the school department about it, and they're aware of it, and so, and what sort of brought it back up to my notice again was that during a school committee meeting, a budget subcommittee meeting, our new business manager had brought in some information about their grants. And it was a list of the grants and how much was there and how long that, whether they were a grant that can be automatically renewed or whatever. So I put together this list, and Molly, I think you've got it there, is that okay?
Yep.
And what I'd like to see is this information on a spreadsheet, so that we can take a look at individually each grant. And the name, whether it's federal or state, the type of grant it is, number of employees, the cost of the employees to us that is being taken care of under the grant.
That would include benefits?
That would include benefits. You can write that down, yeah, please, Molly, and to include the benefits. Start date, end date, or renewal date of the grant, number of dollars received, and did we have to do anything like matching funds? So after we get this on all of the grants that we have, what I'd like to do is to have a chart and see each year where we are with the amount of grants that we have, whether we're losing grants or whether we're gaining some that will outlast. One of the big ones is that Impact Norwood grant that impacts the general government, but, and
And
there's
an early warning that
lots.
something's not gonna be renewed,
Right,
especially if it has employees attached to it.
right, and that's what we ran into 2 years ago,
Yeah.
was it 1 or 2 years ago with the school department, where we had to hire 11 people, because we still had to provide the services that the grant had been paying for. By law, we had to provide those services
I
to the
think we
children.
gotta add 4 people.
No, it was 11.
Was it 11?
11. Yeah, it was 11. So,
I don't remember 11, but it could be.
yeah, so, yeah. So if, along with the trends, we can get this information. I don't know who the holder of this information in the town is what, I know that Bernie for a while was quite involved in all of the grants that we got, but I don't know that he has lists, ongoing lists or anything, so. All right.
Yeah,
I think this will be helpful. Maybe, hopefully, avert issues later on down the road. Alrighty, now we are up to review of the budget calendar. Okay, folks. So in your packet, I gave to you, thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
You should have a budget from the school department.
This one?
Yep. A budget, I'm sorry.
And this official one too.
Yeah,
That's the official one.
the official one that Tom and I created today. So, we're going to need our own meetings, so I'd like to sort of start thinking along those lines. But I wanted you to sort of compare first of all, compare what the budget timeline for the schools was, and I really have not had a chance to look at it, I just got this information today. So where the school committee is, and so they're saying April Finance Commission meeting.
Well, we're not gonna receive the budget until what, the 8th?
It looks
of
like the
April?
8th, yeah. The general government budget, the 8th.
Oh, that's the budget book,
That's the budget book.
That's right, it is the budget book.
yeah.
Yeah, so we started at the end, we said town meeting, it starts on 5/11. The books need to, or whatever information we're sending out needs to arrive at the doorstep 2 weeks before, and that's 4/27 for town meeting members. We need to get it to the printer by 4/20.
Well, wait a minute, if we're going to get the budget book, you mean the final budget on 4/8, we won't see it before then in draft form?
We'll be getting information in a spreadsheet. That is an Excel spreadsheet, like we've gotten in
When
the
will that
past
happen?
year.
When will that happen?
Well, this is what I'm trying to figure out.
Because usually we get like a draft budget book right after
That's
the
right.
budgets have been
That's where
prepared.
we can catch whatever is not correct.
Right,
Right.
so I would assume we're gonna be getting something like that.
On the 8th?
Or well, when we have our budget meetings, with the various departments, that's usually what we have in front of
Yeah.
us.
The book.
Well, it's usually the selectmen's draft.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Okay.
And it's
So we'd have to we'd have to go back further than March 23rd.
correct. So, the school committee, let's see, what have they got? Public hearings on 3/25, 3/11, the school committee budget updates and revisions. So they're still working on it, on 3/11.
well, we usually get their budget before they finalize it. I mean, it's a preliminary budget, just
Right.
like we get the preliminary budgets from, the general government side. So I would think sometime after 2/6, where they're presenting their initial budget to the school committee, no more than 3.5% increase, that's when, they should, and we understand it's draft. We should get that and schedule a budget meeting with them shortly thereafter.
So what dates?
Well, there is something that is in the
2/6.
mix this year as opposed to other years. We have a memorandum of understanding of what the
Yeah.
budget would be. So it's really not something that we've got to go through and, to that detail. And they're committed to staying within that 3.5%, and so isn't the town side.
Yeah,
So it's almost like the budget is fairly well already there, the bottom line anyways. So what am I saying? I'm really not sure, but
Well,
We
it's
don't
going to be the
need to
same,
have those-
in a way, it's going to be the same. But I think a little bit more refined this year, in that Mr. Mizuko has told everyone that they have to stay within their budget. He doesn't want to see increases, and if there is a need for an increase, they need to identify that need to him and the cost involved, and then the departments and the department heads and Mr. Mizuko will be negotiating.
right.
And
Right, but the fact is, I think, you know, whether it's in the bylaws or the charter or whatever, I mean, we do have to have budget hearings, you know, with
Yes.
both the town,
Absolutely.
the general government side and the school side, and we have to have that preliminary budget book in front of us, so we have
Okay.
enough detail, even though it may be that, you know, they have to live within a certain percent increase, you know, according to the memorandum of understanding, we still want to know, number one, you know, where they stand, you know, is there a big increase, as an example, in one department that may have ramifications down the road. I think is one of the big things we want to look at.
As well as headcount.
Yeah, as well as headcount. Yeah,
Well, normally we do toward the end of January, right up to about Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
The school committee used to come in on Valentine's Day and we would pass candy around because we're all happy to be there. But it looks like the school committee says, well, we don't need to see you until sometime in April.
I mean, that's,
They've,
you know, that doesn't work. I mean, the horse is already out of the barn by that point.
Absolutely.
You know, we have to meet both with the town side and the school side in February.
okay,
And go through
this is
their
why I
budgets
brought this up.
and to have the department heads there and whoever else they want to
Right.
answer our questions.
And have the you know, the draft budget book.
Okay, I'm sorry, I found last year's.
Okay.
It was on February 27th, FinCom General Government Review,
Okay,
and, yeah,
yep,
so that's, seems to be the first one
Yeah.
that we had.
yeah.
But that's also was late last year too, because I remember meeting with them on Valentine's Day
Yeah.
at schools, and they were the last to come in.
Usually meet usually we end by the middle of February.
Right. But last year was a lot later.
Yeah,
Okay,
That's because we
Yeah.
had new people in
yeah,
management.
yeah.
So all they really need to do is, by 2/6, the school committee is getting budget version A presented to them. Or that's their date for reviewing it. That is the preliminary draft budget, I would think, and sometime
Mhm.
after that, we should, you know, have a meeting with them. This
Well, that,
Valentine's Day seems to be right in the mix on this chart. That's a
okay,
good date to meet with us
but
as
they
well.
do have the next line down, budget balancing committee, their budget balancing committee.
no,
meet-
no,
No?
no, I think they put that in February and March. I think they put that in to
For the
just
townwide budget
acknowledge
balance?
the townwide budget balance.
Multiple meetings with budget balancing, but for us, they only need the one preliminary meeting.
Right.
So they,
So you like Valentine's Day as a day to meet?
not really.
Oh, it's on a Friday, oy. Yeah. How about Thursday, the 13th,
Of February?
February 13th, it's on a Thursday.
And that would be a school committee hearing
I'll have
for the
to,
budget.
I'll have to get back to you. I think it's okay, but I'm not positive.
Okay. I do have one week that I will not be available in February. I will not be available the 24th to the 28th in February.
I won't be available from the 2nd of February, and I will return the 10th.
February 2 to 10?
Yep.
Yeah, let's see, when am I not available? I'm not available, the 6th through the 10th.
Of February?
Yeah,
That would seem like we all will be available around the Valentine's 13th.
Yep.
February 13th would seem to be
Would
okay.
seem-
Yeah,
Be a
Kelly
good-
sent
good
me
day.
an email, let me see if I can
But
find it.
again, that's what we prefer here, but there's so many people to schedule.
Right, right,
Right,
right.
let me see if I can find Kelly. Let's see what she has to say, I'm pretty sure she sent me something. Okay, No. February date's not available. She is not available. Kelly is not available on the 12th or the 17th to the 20th. 17th to the 20th, school vacation, I would gather. All right, well, we'll put this,
So that's the school committee hearing. Then we have the,
so
Town-
it looks like the 13th works for everybody.
well, here.
I'll double check that, I think
Okay.
it's okay.
All right. All right.
So meeting with the town side,
Do you want to try, let's see, that week, 10?
about,
In the past, we've always met before the schools. Schools was always
Yeah.
the last.
yeah.
So,
But
But
we-
it doesn't mean we have to.
Well,
I mean,
we have to get the budget book first.
The town budget book.
Yeah, I mean, the preliminary budget book that we always get.
I think Tony has a view of that being much later than normal. Not normal, but what we usually get it. So Ann, you may want to.
I'll talk to Tony.
Talk to Tony
Yeah.
and see if there is some room to combine things and so forth.
Just for yucks, what is everybody doing the first week of March?
Not a lot.
Yeah, I know, you're getting
Right
ready
now,
for my
I'm
birthday
available
celebration, is
right
that what
now.
it is?
Oh, happy birthday.
You're okay for March?
First- Yeah,
Right
Monday
in
the
the
2nd,
moment?
March 2nd through, yeah.
Bob, anything?
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine now. At some point in March, you know, my wife and I we may be going to China, and it looks like
China?
March, yeah. My daughter's in school in China starting in February, so
I hope she's not near that.
she's in Shanghai,
Oh,
not in the center, but, you know, it's a big country. But yeah, so I have no dates for that yet, so but the first week, I'm sure looks fine.
Okay.
Right.
Later part, maybe not.
All right, so maybe we look at that first, maybe the schools come in first, you know? It doesn't, we don't have to do them first or second or last. But it looks
First
like
week of
everybody
March.
has the first week of March opened also, so.
why don't we look on the calendar and what other times that we know we're not available? So you can have that in.
Okay,
I will send you that, Ann.
all
I
right.
don't have it with me, unfortunately.
Well, you could put down myself April 9th through the 19th. I'm unavailable.
And that would be from, when we get the books, for us to vote on, the final vote, it will be on the 8th. Okay.
Well, we get it on the 8th to the FinCom. On the 8th.
And then we have until the 20th for it to go to the printers. I pushed Tom a little bit on that one,
Okay?
because I think it's gonna be a slightly different
And I'm
format.
gonna be gone
and
that
we
whole
need
time
to-
except the 8th. And I'm gone most of that time.
So you'd be available on the 8th?
Hmm?
You'd be available on the 8th and you wouldn't be back until the 19th?
I'll be back on the 19th and available on the 20th.
Okay, and we'll have to have it to the printer on the 20th. Well, we'll send it to you electronically, and while you're on
I
your,
won't have time.
excuse us,
I was gonna see the Pope.
all right.
I'll be in home.
Well, maybe he'll have some thoughts and some edits to our budget. He can bless it.
Bless our budget.
I can have him bless it, right?
There you go.
And then I'll be on the ocean sailing.
Okay, all right, so we have a beginning of
Yes,
a
yes, it's good.
thing, and I will talk to Tony about when Molly, you don't have any inside information, do you? Okay.
Now, even on this list here, to the printer on the 20th, so we have to have back to Tom any changes we
Yes.
want, because he's got to have time, or Molly's got to have time to make the changes.
Right,
So, which means the 8th, probably, you know, like around the 15th,
yeah.
April 8th to April 15th, like maybe a week and a half.
So I was thinking that we, you know, Tom's gonna get it on the 23rd, the final editions on the 23rd. He's gonna do his thing, then he's gonna get it to us on the 8th, and I pushed on that.
Well,
You
yeah,
know, he
well-
wanted to push it back a little bit into more, closer to the 20th, and I said, no, we need to vote on it, and we need to review it for
We have to
correctness,
give him time
to be able to make
to make the
changes.
changes, so
Yeah.
we'd have it for the printer on the 8th. I mean, I will
I can
admit,
sit
we're
down
getting
with
very
you,
good service from the
Go
printer.
over it, that's not a problem for me.
Go over the.
Go over the April 8th copy, yeah.
Yeah,
We
okay,
need
well,
to.
thank you, yeah,
Yeah.
and definitely, we always need two people at
Yeah.
least doing that,
Yep.
just to
Yep.
catch the little errors.
And I think last year, didn't they split it up, that, I can't remember, they gave us the narrative report, like, earlier, I can't, I'll have to go back and look at my notes, so.
We got,
You
we
get
got
bits
it,
and pieces,
we
so
got a
there's the
couple of-
narrative part, and then there are all the charts and
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's gonna be a little different format this year, because, you know, the narrative may be different, but also we're gonna have all the trends,
Right.
you know, and we're gonna have to look at that carefully.
Right, correct.
Right, and we'll be getting output too from Munis too, correct?
But maybe,
Some in Excel, but
maybe we can work on, while everybody is putting this together, we can work, the group of us, or a
Yeah.
subgroup of us, can work on what we want ourselves, and we've talked about this now for a
Yeah.
couple of times, and we'll work amongst ourselves what we want in the book
Yeah.
for the charts
Okay.
and the graphs and the information, and then we'll have that ready to go, so that people aren't running around putting it together at the last minute.
Right.
All right. And since Kelly isn't here, we might give that job to Kelly. What do you think?
What else can we volunteer her for?
I'm trying to think. All right, so we all set?
Yep.
I've got everybody's,
so you'll get in touch with the schools and tell them the date that we prefer, and then they can take this off of there.
Mhm.
Okay.
yeah.
And
All
what
right.
did we agree for the school date? I'm sorry.
The 13th,
13th of
February 13th.
Okay.
Now,
Now,
I don't know what they
Did you say you were gonna be
have.
away too?
Yeah,
When?
the last week of February,
The last week of February.
the
24th through the 29th,
that sounds right.
Monday through Friday?
Yeah,
And
yes,
if you want,
22nd to the 29th.
on the 13th, if you want to make it a 5:30 starting time, I can probably work that through the schedule,
Okay, great.
just so we don't
And the
get
tw-
caught.
Okay.
the 22nd you'll be gone, and you will return when?
29th,
Okay, yeah.
The 29th, okay.
22nd to the 29th.
Okay.
Did everybody hear that? In the world.
Good.
Did we spend a whole evening with the school department? Did we take up a whole evening last year? I was trying to remember.
We usually
Yeah.
schedule the school department by
By
themselves.
themselves.
Yeah.
Okay,
2 days with the general government side.
okay.
Yeah, and at some point, we're also gonna have to schedule a meeting with capital
Capital
outlay.
outlay. When's your next capital outlay meeting?
Oh, early February, I believe. Give me a minute, and I will tell you.
And, Mrs. Bodenhofer is still the chair, is the chair of the Budget Balancing Subcommittee. So I
Who
will,
is,
Maya,
oh, my, that's right.
yeah. she-
February,
so-
no.
Yeah, February what?
February 6th.
The goal at that meeting is to lock down the
Yes.
capital projects
Yes.
that you'd like to put
Yep,
forward.
That's the meeting to put forward the 21,
Yeah,
FY '21, and the funding sources and so forth.
okay.
I will say I liked
I
the way
believe that is
the
it.
capital outlay was done in the books last year. It was very nice, it was very good,
Mhm.
very informative.
Yep.
So, okay, are we all set? Have we taken care of our whole
Well,
agenda
we just
here?
have to schedule the 2 nights for the town side hearing
Mhm.
and the capital outlay. That's,
Right, and I will get on that. And I have everybody's schedules. Okay, do you have anything to contribute, Mrs. Langell?
no, I think I have everything.
You're all set?
I
Nothing
think
else
so.
to add?
Am I missing something?
No, no, you're not. Mr.
Oh,
Dodd?
I am, we might as well start saying this, so people will be reminded. April 6th is the Norwood Town election.
Yes,
It's a Monday. So if we keep saying it, maybe we'll get people to come out and vote this time. And the other thing, I am announcing I'm running for reelection
thank
for the FinCon.
Okay.
you. Okay. Mr. Donnelly, anything?
No, no.
Thank you for all your information about the debt, and reviewing our status for when we're gonna get our AAA rating.
Sure.
Oh,
Just good to keep that on the radar screen, I think,
It
just to talk it up as much as we can and make progress, so.
Yeah, with all the new money coming in from the state and some grants and all that and the override and everything, we're in really good shape. Good shape to, the framework we put around a 5-year plan to get there, I think is very doable now.
Mhm.
And I think, frankly, the hardest job is gonna be is to keep it from just spending it
Right,
for the sake of spending.
Right.
and
Just
this is
because
where
we
our,
have it, yeah.
our commitment needs to be putting money
Right.
into the
It's
savings
easy to
accounts.
make decisions when you don't have any money,
Right.
Right.
but it's very, very difficult to fight everybody wanting to go after the pot because there's some money there,
Right.
even though we have plans for that money,
Mhm.
plans for the future to keep us within that framework.
And that's we were all very wise to create the stabilization fund for the override, to put it aside for the rainy
That's right.
days that may come
And there's a
5, 6
plan
years
for
down
that.
the line.
That's
And-
right.
And to have the budget caps and the references on the MOU to the headcount increases. And, structurally, I think we put together a nice plan to keep us on target.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to think about the future,
Yes.
and that's what we're doing.
Okay, Mr. Slater, anything?
Just quickly, the middle school building committee, we are planning another field trip to Raynham Middle School. Tentatively, it's February 12th. It hasn't been finalized yet, but we want to do that, and hopefully, hopefully in the 13th, we'll get the go-ahead from MSBA to go into the feasibility study, so that's what we're hoping for.
Okay,
I
great.
would, I think I still have it. I think the Boston Globe had an article recently where Mr. McCarthy was interviewed about MSBA and some background on the change in policy regarding model schools and such. I'll see if
Yeah.
I fish it out and I'll get it to the
Good.
members.
That would be
Okay,
great.
thank you.
It's interesting.
Yep.
All right, well,
Is there a timeline yet? I mean, how long the feasibility study would be and the different major big pieces? I'm not talking the project plan.
Usually a study like that, it's gonna be anywhere from 6 to 12 months, probably more like 12 months.
Okay,
What we have to do first is to hire a owner's project manager, and then we'll go out along with MSBA for architect to do the study. one of the critical parts of that study will be to justify the fifth grade going into the middle school.
Now,
MSB
why would that be hard?
Well, MSBA is concerned that there could be additional capacity in this elementary school system if we move the fifth grade to the middle school.
Gotcha.
So it's incumbent upon us and our consultant to justify the fact, excuse me, the fact that we're moving the fifth into the middle school and we're not creating
Maybe.
additional excess capacity, which we think we can do, because, you know, there's many rooms, many instances where they'll have an activity out in the corridor, as an example, or we have a number of, you know, not the temporary classrooms, you know.
Portable.
Portables, thank you.
The cottages, I think.
The
they-
cottages, yes.
Cottages.
you know,
So
number of the
MSBA
cottages.
is taking the whole school system, the buildings, and looking at the footprints and the square
Basically,
footages
that's
per
correct.
student, and looking at how it's scattered around.
Correct, yeah.
And this is important because as I understand it, that if they could make a determination that if you want to build a middle school with a fifth grade, we'll pay for the school part for 6, 7, and 8, but we don't really
Correct.
think your need is justified for the fifth, so we
pay
would
for
have to
the
pick
fifth.
up that.
If
That
we
is
wanted to
correct,
put it in
yes.
there.
Okay.
And if that does happen, then, you know, Noel would have to make the decision, do they
Right.
wanna go ahead with that
Yep.
piece, because
Yep.
that's what our future plan is.
Right, right.
Yeah, and,
Go
and,
alone at it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and our schools are crowded. I mean, they've been crowded for years, and
Yeah.
every time we have, you know, you have the, like, the ELL, like, English learners.
Learners,
yeah.
English language
The,
learners.
they need extra space. We've had an influx, and they need extra space to learn, so we really, in some of our schools, are very, very tight for
No,
space.
no.
You know, putting the, what are the little ones called?
Little
Oh, the,
Mustangs.
Mustangs,
Little
Little
Mustang
Mustangs.
Academy.
How could I forget?
Mhm.
Putting them up at the Savage Building relieved that Willett Building that was just like bursting
Yeah.
at its
Mhm.
Right.
seams. And now they're comfortable. But there's a lot of, there's been some growth there,
Yeah,
so. All right, I
Interesting.
will take a motion to adjourn.
so moved?
Second,
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, unanimous, I guess.
by the
you.
way,